Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Here is perhaps a transcendent truth. If pain were water, the world would drown. Yes, if pain were water, the world would drown. I'd like to talk about that just for a little while today because I think it has obviously implications for everybody. So please join me as we try to speak life and see if we can learn how to live better, more effectively, and serve others with greater passion and empathy. Speak life. But unfortunately, if pain were water, the world would drown. The program begins right now. Well, here we are once again, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you. Last time we talked about power colors, and I talked about the use of a power color, and we have about three or four or five, and many of them are actually shown right here. So perhaps some of you remember the five power colors, and my recommendation that you need to put your business together and your organization or your personal brand together and learn to understand what might be some of your power colors that you would use. And all of you need to think about your own personal and organizational and company logo, slogan, slogo. What picture do you give people that shows who you are, perhaps what you do, and how good you are in one page? Can you do that? Well, where did that expression come from? I remember when I first heard it, I was listening to, as I thought, was a gentleman named Dennis Prager, who is a very well known radio host, is now going through a good deal of physical difficulty. And that kind of makes sense. But in response to a lady who called in, she described all of the things that their family was going through, both physically and emotionally. And I remember he paused and simply said, if pain were water, the world would drown. And boy, did that wake me up. I've thought about it a lot. I've used that expression quite a bit. And as I was thinking about speaking about it today, I wanted to make sure that perhaps I was right, that it really was Dennis Prager, and had he taken it from some other source. So I sent my faithful, trusty research robot off, and Stosh the robot came back and said, yes, he'd checked all of the internet, and it appears that everyone who has used that expression in many cases have credited it to, as I thought, Dennis Prager. Uh, if pain were water, the world would drown. Um, First of all, that can be very personal. Recently, my dear wife Karen has gone through a number of sessions where the pain, both in back and leg and in parts of her body, has become almost unbearable in some cases. And it's not localized, and it's not all the time, but it has become very disabling in a number of ways. So we have sought some of the best help both in the medical profession. And of course, we also know, because we've had experience with chiropractic medicine, that it can be helpful and useful at sometimes. And where we're at right now, after a rather expensive piece of work, it's coming along. Yes, uh, not cheap, but even with our insurance, there's still extra things that we need. But I'm glad to report that it seems that the therapy is beginning to work, and that there is less pain in her life. And a real thought as things get better and perhaps the therapy increases and the right use of drugs without overdoing it. That's part of the problem sometimes is we reduce our pain not by reducing the pain but by just simply using drugs to cover it up, which sometimes we just have to do. Very simple. If pain were water, the world would drown. Obviously, the world is full of physical pain. There are a lot of people who are in emotional pain, spiritual pain. Indeed, uh, pain is everywhere. It seems that it is truly a part of the universal condition, which is kind of predicted in the story of the beginnings in Genesis. That uh, pain will come in birth. Pain will come, perhaps in death. And in between, there will be pain. Now, oftentimes when I've mentioned that, people have said, well, what's the hope? Well, what I did is I went and wrote down some of the things that some people have said to me when I've said that. Uh, oh, hmm, you know what? If pain is water, we'd all become better swimmers. Hmm, that was a good response. If pain is water, we would all learn how to help one another if we want to be helped. If pain is water, that may be, like water, then that means maybe it's one of the things that can lead to real transformations in life. No pain, no gain. And sometimes the ability to deal with pain gives us the kind of character and resilience and the qualities of life that we need. That, you know, truly a pain free life might be a life that lacks happiness and joy and fulfillment and perhaps some of the ecstasy of knowing what it's like to be free from pain. And I'm not going to go into a great deal about it because I don't know that much about it. I simply know that I have been very, very blessed. Yes, uh, the cancer surgery was painful, but 6, 7 years later, um, I'm kind of pain free and cancer free. I've been able, because of some of my good fortune and because I've tried to exercise and do a lot of the good things, that I'm basically, um, I'm not necessarily feeling any particular significant physical pain. I've had some relational pain lately, things that have happened to me that have made me feel kind of bad. Uh, I didn't think it was my fault, but some things happened in breakups of things and situations that, yeah, I said, you know, and in some cases now that has caused me to say, okay, let's try and see if we can kind of fix that situation. If there's been a painful incident between people, maybe we can reduce that and make it right. I'll talk about that sometime because I have many years in my coaching. I've said, how many people would you be afraid to run into at the airport? You know what that means. All of a sudden, in the even the busiest and the faraway airports, here I am on an emergency mission in New York City and running through LaGuardia, and all of a sudden I run into someone that I knew, you know, and it turns out it was a good encounter, but that happened, and then they were they said, Stan, why are you doing this? And I told them why I was in New York City and it was a painful thing. And of course, they wished me the best, kind of said a word of blessing to me. But you know, sometimes you're liable to run into people that, in effect, you maybe. on kind of the outs with in some respects. What do you do? Well, what I'm trying to do, as some of you might want to try and do, is where I know there might be some strains in relationships, maybe not all pain, but some strain, some difficulty. Uh, let's see if we can work it out. You know, let's try and reduce all the pain we can by our own actions, our own forgiveness, our own ability to press on in spite of the pain. And then how to deal with it as it becomes more chronic and more difficult. Uh, how do we pray? How do we seek help? How do we get the right medication? How do we make the pain be less, go away? Or, as St. Paul said, I've got a pain. And you know what? I've prayed to God to take it away. Take away this pain, this thorn, this thing that really gives me a bad time. And God said, no, it's good for you. You can keep it. Deal with it. I'm not so sure I particularly like that word, but maybe that's the deal. Well, there we are for today. Now, this covers inconvenient ideas, transformation zones, certainly the Jesus Entrepreneur Collective, even the Jesus broadcast, the various programs that I deal with, is let's learn how to be ministers of pathos. Yeah, that means we bring comfort and joy as best we can. We bring empathy to those who are in pain. And that we are people who, encourage people who are going through deep and difficult times. Oftentimes in our church in Arizona, where we had a variety of people of, like us, the senior citizens, I would say, you know what? Right now, one of our good friends is in some real deep water, and it's quite painful, both physically, emotionally, relationally. Let's pray for the pain. Pray for the pain. Thank you for your time today. I'd love to hear from you. We are continuing to seek through our various work to come into your life, your business, your organization with my variety of team mates to help you, first of all, learn how to tell your story. Because you know what? Sometimes learning how to tell your story, or perhaps when you listen to another person's story, it helps take the pain away. I remember a gentleman who just simply said, Stan, you've spent the last 2 hours just listening to me and what I'm going through. I said, yeah? I said, thank you. I don't have as much pain today because I was able to talk to you today. Thank you. The mystery of life, the mystery of pain, and the mystery oftentimes of healing. Thank you for your time. I'd love to hear from you. We have ways and works and things that we can do to help you. So if I can't, I probably know someone who can, but we're in the business of helping people build life and businesses where they are fully alive. And maybe, in some cases, even pain-free. Let's see what we can do for thee. Please reach out to me, 520-664-7002. Yeah, you can call my phone number. I won't answer the phone since I don't know who you are, but leave a message and I'll get back to you. And you can reach out to me at stan@witradio.net, stan@witradio.net, and we'll see what we can do for each other. All the best and blessings. Again, may we learn how to live and do all we can to live with less pain and less fear and more hope and glory in our life. Bye for now.